Mrs. Rhodes here. I'm going to walk through the steps for our symmetrical bug project that we're creating today. You are going to choose a bug or a beetle. There are, I think, 6 options. You'll pick one beetle of your choice. You're also going to have a large mixed media paper. It's this thicker, more expensive paper to use today. Your first step is to fold your mixed media paper in half vertically. So vertical is tall, skinny. You're going to fold it in half. You're going to use your table as a flat surface to make the corners actually match up. That's important today. So put it on your desk. Line up the corners. Crease tightly all the way across. Drag your fingers to crease tightly all the way across. You're going to open it up, kind of flatten it out again, and then you're going to write your name and code on the back. We always write our name and code on the back so that we don't put personal information on Artsonia, because we post our artwork to Artsonia throughout the year. So name and code always on back. I also love it when you circle your code, because that tells me it's separate from your name. Sometimes your name and code kind of squish together. It's hard for me to decipher. Now the front is the clean side, always. We're going to have our bug of choice behind our mixed media paper like this. So my bug is this way. My mixed media paper with my name on the back is on top. I'm going to line up the corners. They will line up perfectly because I measured the papers. And now I'm ready to go trace my bug in the cafeteria. We're actually going to head to the cafeteria because the lovely large windows are going to project light through our paper. We'll be able to trace our bug on one side. Let's go. All right, artists, I have my beetle behind. The black is facing up. I have my paper on top. I'm going to line them up straight. It's important. I'm going to place it flat on the window, and I'm going to trace my bug. Holding it so it doesn't wiggle. We are back in the art room right away when you're done tracing. 2 things I want you to do right away. I want you to put your bug tracer back in the box so that it does not get any ink or paint on it. That's really important because these do take me longer to print since they're on a special large paper. Second, I want you to put your pencil back in your pencil case right away so those also don't get all ink and paint on them. So we're ready to go over our trace bug with black. Sometimes I do this project with India ink. India ink is really watery, it's permanent, which means it stains clothing, hands, all the things. If I feel like I can trust a group with that, we'll use India ink because since it is permanent, it doesn't smudge later on when we do our liquid watercolor, our color over top. Sometimes I use tempera paint. Tempera paint is the paint we use often. It's black paint. I'm going to demonstrate both for this video so that you can see the difference. Your goal as a group is to earn the India ink because it's a little better for this project. But if I notice behaviors while we're tracing, etc., then we use tempera paint. Still works beautifully, just different. I'll demonstrate both. So I'm going to start with the India ink. It's really watery, so you're not going to pick it up like I am. It's going to be on the desk. It's probably going to be in an extra container to help spills. You don't need water buckets or anything today since you only have one color. Now you do have to do this process fairly quickly because your goal is to paint over all of your insect lines and then actually squish this shut. So we actually fold it shut after we paint, and we rub really kind of quickly with pressure. When we open, it reveals the symmetrical side. If you do it really slowly, if you're trying to be kind of perfect about your lines, it's just going to dry. When you squish it, it will be empty white or like a couple dots, and that's not helpful for you. This project is meant to be kind of abstract lines, so it's not going to be perfect, detailed lines, and that's kind of the look. It's kind of squishy splatter vibes, but not actually splatter. We're not splattering. But it's not a perfect line. That's intentional for this project. Sometimes we're intentionally a little bit more exaggerated, messy, not perfect within the lines. So I'm quickly painting my India ink. This is the Indian ink example. Over my beetle, I'm going back with any spots that I notice are already drying because I want them to show up. We can also go back over these later if our squish doesn't show up the first time. You can open it back up and go again. So now right away I'm going to Carefully squish this left side over to the right, and then I'm gonna kind of rub and get all the spots. Medium pressure, not so hard that it's blobbing everywhere, but you do have to push a little bit to get all the spots. I'm checking twice. Sometimes I even like to peek. Looks good. I'm gonna peel to reveal. And we have our abstract symmetrical bug. I just love the kind of messy, blobby effect. Now I'm going to do this demonstration with tempera paint and time lapse. We'll see the difference. All right, here's our tempera paint version. I just squished it. Different vibe. Both really cool, you guys. This one, you do have to work faster. The tempera paint, you have to work faster. If you notice some parts like this on the bottom that aren't showing up like you like, after you squish, you can come back with your paintbrush and just go over them so they match the darkness of the other side. Honestly, I almost prefer that kind of brush stroke look. So it does not need to be exactly the same on both sides. So if we compare India ink, tempera paint, both amazing. Our India ink or tempera paint is now dry, so we do have to wait for these to dry. So in the meantime, while you're waiting for them to dry, you're finishing up projects that are unfinished and submitting to Artsonia, okay? I have warm watercolor palette and cool watercolor palette. I also have a mixing tray. We have, I believe, 2 of each of these for each table, and then 1 water bucket for each table. You'll each choose your own paintbrush because that's kind of artist preference for what brush we like. Now, it's important to know that India ink, this watery one, does not smudge when we paint watercolor over top. Tempera paint does smudge because tempera paint is washable, so it's water activated. So when this gets wet with our watercolor, it will smudge into our color. So depending on which one your class used, just be mindful. If you're doing India ink, there's no possible way to smudge the black. If you're doing tempera paint, you have to be more mindful of that. So your watercolor is going to be in the center for everybody to reach. Of course, we all share the paint in the center, all 4 or 5 students at your table. I have my brush wet, and I'm actually going to start by mixing my own color. So I'm going to put some water on my paint palette, and I'm going to grab some lime green. I'm gently swirling in the paint. I'm not squishing, I'm not splashing around, I'm gentle. I'm gonna add that to my puddle of water, wash my brush, and I'm gonna add some turquoise. I intentionally picked this palette because the turquoise looks empty to the eye, but there's actually a ton of paint on the side. So even if your paint looks empty, use what's on the side. That's just as great as when it's full. I'm gonna swirl that into my green to make my own gorgeous lime green turquoise that I'm now gonna use on my beetle. So I'm going to paint on one side, whatever I do on that side, I'm going on the other side. Yes, we are painting symmetrical today. Symmetrical beetle, symmetrical paint colors. I do not have to be careful about touching the black. Notice I'm painting over the black just to demonstrate. And it's not smudging at all. It's stuck, permanent. If I do that on this one, I need to be really careful near the edge that I'm not touching the black, because when the black gets wet from my paintbrush, it's gonna try to smudge into my green or my color, okay? You're gonna fill your whole beetle with colors, different designs, colors. Practice color mixing. You can grab some colors straight from the palette. Have fun with your symmetrical painting. When it's done, of course, it goes onto the drying rack. You're gonna grab pinch so it doesn't fly onto your clothing and carry it to the shelf.